to use the 12-inch wreath. I took the supports off and I used some of this wreath the other day. I want this to be very natural, organic feeling, so I'm going to put in some of this vine to start off the project. So if you'll just take your piece and spread it out and start to kind of work with it. This is going to sound kind of hokey, but the vine will kind of talk to you and tell you what it wants to do. You see how this piece has lots of small vines? That's the best kind to use for these type of projects. So you can see I've got a nice section of vine here that would kind of work through my whole arrangement. So I'm just going to cut it right here. We don't need all of that. And we'll start working on it, okay? I'm just cutting this with my wire cutters. Another tool I like to keep around handy is just some regular cutters for the garden, some like snips. Now mine are out in the garden because, you know, the garden, I stole the ones from here for that. Okay, so I've got my foam in. I'm going to go ahead and glue it in and get it prepped and ready to go. I do generally use my Gorilla Glue just because it's my backup plan. Y'all will hear me say that all the time. I have backup plans. That's just because of my history doing craft shows. People walking up, carrying your whole arrangement by one twig. I want to try to construct things that are going to last for the long haul. And not only is it going to make my customer happy, but it's also going to survive shipping. And if I'm making it for myself, I certainly want it to last a long time too, right? So I'm just putting some glue on here. If I had my larger glue pot, I still would have to do the same thing. All right, I'm popping it in. So a little Gorilla Glue and then our hot glue on top. Basically the Gorilla Glue is going to work later to secure it, but right now the hot glue is going to get it nice and hot. So the base is secure, we got it cut, we got it going in, and I am filling up most of the container with this. Now, we talked about I want the vine in here. This is grapevine and I want it to work to be really organic and naturey feeling. So I'm going to take and spread it apart, and we're going to just kind of see how it spreads apart. And it's kind of giving me a little bit of a loop on this side and a loop in the middle. And I think I can kind of work with that. So in order to secure this down in some of these places, we've got a couple of options. We can start with it staple gunning it to the wood base, which would be fine. Or we could just kind of start securing some pieces into the foam. You got a couple of different options. But we need to cut it into those sections to kind of make this look happen. All right, and we're going to work the pumpkin into the middle. But where a bunch of the tension's occurring is right here at the center. So I'm going to cut this into some little bitty different sections. I'm going to come in here. And basically we're going to cut it into 3 different circles. So now that we took some of that pressure off, look how that'll lay down for you just fine, all right? And you can keep some of it connected, but we want it to be really easy to work with. And then I'm going to take this piece on this side, and that means if I cut this one, it should lay down pretty good. Okay, so I've kind of relieved some of the pressure on there. And I'm going to start to secure it in the middle with some wire. I just like this 18 gauge wire. It's the kind I use for hangers. It's just regular 18 gauge wire. It's strong enough to hold its shape, but it's easy to manipulate. And that's what I like about that. It's my favorite gauge wire. Let's put it in to start holding this in place. So, okay, grapevines are a little bit ornery, but they're the least expensive type of vine you can add to your piece. If I were to use artificial vine, I love artificial vine because it's so easy to manipulate, but it's going to cost more. Okay, so I'm going to take my first piece and put it right in the middle, just like a big giant U-pin. And that's going to kind of hold that section in the middle now, okay, in place. Now, we're going to put some more pieces in a second, but I need to get that big pumpkin in there the way I want it so I can manipulate this around. So we're using a set of pumpkins that comes with 6 little ones and 1 big guy. And I want this guy to sit in this grapevine cluster kind of just like this off to the side. So this is going to go in on the right. So we're going to start off with a dowel. This is a dowel that you use for, this one you use for, what do you call this? Barbecuing. So it's not really a dowel, it's called a shish kebab skewer. Skewer, thank you. I couldn't think of it. Spit it out. So once you kind of establish your angle, we're going to skewer it in. Skewers are my favorite thing to use to hold pumpkins and stuff like that. Now we're going to trim down the stem where it's long enough to get to that foam, but not so long it's not going to go in. Let's see if this will work. All right, so I talked about I like it a little bit at an angle. I want him to just kind of tuck it up here and over to the right side. Okay, and as we start to work with that vine, we're going to work it in, but I'm going to go ahead and pin a little bit more of it down. All right, we're going to bring this twig down. I'm going to try to hold it in place a little bit. So I'm going to come in here with a floral pin that I made out of that wire. We're just going to try to hold these down just a little bit. We're going to have florals and stuff to help it stay down, but I want to kind of start playing with this a little bit. And you can kind of bend it a little. There we go. It's a little bit better. And this one I'm going to pull out a little. So the reason I'm doing this first is just it makes it a little easier to deal with it than putting it all in later. I'm going to push this one in the bottom of the pumpkin. Okay, cool. So you can see we're getting a good spread. We're going to be ready to put our florals in. Now, we've got our small pumpkins that we're going in, but we're going to be putting in these great ferns. And I picked out like a light coral berry in a bush to go in here too. So I've got my twigs where I want them. I've got my main pumpkin, but now we need to get some of the other main aspects going in. All right, all these cute little green pumpkins, some come like a cream green, some come in a darker green. We're gonna need those in next. Here are the two really corally bushes we're putting in. So this is such a pretty green. You can see how pretty it mixes with this coral. I've got a berry that has those colors, a little bit of greenery on the leaf. And this one has a pretty like berry cluster that we're gonna use. That's gonna be our color. Then for our greenery, we're going to use some everyday greenery here. We're going to use a eucalyptus and a fishtail fern. And then my favorite fern is this fern with a little bit of the darker center that has that natural look. And oh, you guys, we're going to be putting in a little bit of pampas too. That is that pampas we had custom made for us. And it's got these great, just this really good green. Really good green. All right, I'm just trimming this down to go ahead and cut this bush into sections. So I'm just pulling it down. It has the cutest little frond here in the center. I'm gonna see if I can pull it out. Oh, I can a little bit. Okay, cool. I got one with a wire, one without, but I will save these and put these in the middle too. And I'm gonna cut these down. So we're gonna open this up and start to spread this bush out and trim it. And what we're gonna wanna do is work in and out of the grapevine. So just like wreaths have transition points, we will have the same type of thing in a centerpiece where we'll have a transition of direction. And there can be multiples, and depending what centerpiece we're doing tonight, we're going to have all kinds of different transitions. But today it's occurring a little bit off center. This pumpkin is a little more right than left. So you know that your florals need to come out from there. This side to the right, this side to the left. So we're going to start with some of our longer sprays and get some of this fern kind of underneath here to kind of set a beautiful bed for these greenery to be laying on. So just like you would in a wreath, you're going to set your perimeter and start setting that with the fern. And I'm going to work it in through the grapevine. Anybody likes any tool. I'm telling you, there's no tool he doesn't like. Actually, if I want to con him into a project, I say con in the nicest way, but if I want to con him into something, all I have to do is propose that it would require a new tool purchase. All right, we've got our first two pieces in on the left. We're going to do the same thing on the right. And you can see I'm using the greenery, like I told you, we're going to use that to kind of hold down a little of this vine. We know it's secure in the middle, it's secure under the pumpkin, but now I'm working over that. And if you're new, you may never have heard me say this, but those of you who've been around, when I work on depth and dimension in my designs, it makes your work worth more money in the long run, okay? So we got two pieces on either side, and we're going to use triangle placement. So far we've got one long one short one, and we'll bring another short one to the back side. Do that same thing where I'm working it in and out of the grapevine. So some it'll go over, some it'll go under. So that means it grew here, the grapevine was there, and then it grew after, right? You know what technique's been working pretty good lately is if if I say, well, you know, we're going to have to hire somebody to do that project, I mean, he comes out of nowhere to do it. I think it gets done. It gets done. So you can see if you're having some confusion about triangle placement, it means I'm just putting one piece in like the top of the triangle and the other two below here. So I'm making a triangle, okay? It's this way. I'm making it this way. But I'm doing that on either side. So we have a transition where things change direction, and then we're also thinking about placement when we put everybody in. Okay, we have 6 more pumpkins that kind of need to go in next, so they've gotta get in here, okay? So let's get some more of our skewers. Ta-da! So I'm gonna start to put these on. Instead of just putting these straight, give them a little bit of an angle. So that way when that pumpkin goes in, we can play with it a little bit. And I'll trim that down. And we should be able to get a couple out of each of these. These I got at a grocery store or something because they were so super thick. I might have even gotten them out of town. So when I find something unique, like, and they have them, they won't be as cheap as the Walmart ones, but they're a lot thicker. I usually go ahead and pick up a couple. Because they usually come in packs of several. So I'm going to take a big, a medium, and a small one and get them all ready to go in. Let's get these in first. And I'm going to kind of cluster them, and rather than put them all over, I'm going to let them do their own little cool cluster. I'm going to let them get in the twig game back here. So this one's going to go in. You see the dimension already with the twig going over that? All right. Let's put this one maybe down a little bit right here. Kind of angled a little bit differently. Pop it in there. And then I'm going to put this little baby one kind of stacked right there. If I have a long enough stem. I don't have a long enough stem, so let me get one a little longer. That's okay. We can save it for the other side. So I'm going to put that one right there. Okay, I made me a little cluster. So I've got a cluster here. I've got a big dynamic piece here. And then I'm going to have another cluster, but this one I'm going to move out from the pumpkin a little bit. We're going to put it down here. So I kind of have this shape forming that's not exactly the same coming through. I kind of prefer it to be a little bit different. So let's put the, oh no, don't get in the glue pot. Uh-oh. I lost the tip of my fern. It's the first casualty of the night. It could happen. We could have casualties. Okay, so I'm letting that go over the top. I'm going to keep this below it. Isn't this a fun green? Yes, this is kind of a Keleas style. This pretty green look. I love it. I have 2 over here, and I'm going to, instead of putting the third one there, I'm going to go a little bit further back with it, down, maybe down right here. So the nice thing about this whole pumpkin set is filling up a lot of real estate in the design. And it's allowing us to work that grapevine right around it. I love that. All right, let's go back here. Okay. All right, so there's going to be a different, you know, we're going to have a whole flow going from the front. So far, we've got good spacing on our greenery. I'm happy with that. I'm ready to put some more fern in and kind of soften the whole look of everything we got going on. So one thing I think would be pretty is if we could work a little of this fern kind of cupping back on itself and kind of coming softly to either side. And we could do that a number of ways. Like I could have it work the back of it come up, but I think I'm just going to have this work softly on the front of the design. So we got to get it down into the foam here. I want to hear it crunch, and then I'm going to bring that up here, just kind of working in softly over the vine a little bit. Let's do that on either side. All right, fantastic. I'm pulling those centerpieces out if they'll come out. Ugh. Because I'm going to save those for somewhere special, those cute little pieces. We're going to be centerpiecing till the break of dawn, baby. Till the break of dawn. Keleas got it going on. No, that's a different song. That's not the right song. I'm feeling good. All right, we're going to cut all of these. Breaking it down. And now we're going to work on the other side. I want to get the cutest piece I have. The most neat one that's got the neat little, I don't know, I love ferns. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I love how they look so natural. So I'm going to take this one, and I want it to kind of come up a little bit on the body too. Kind of get it up there. Get it going on. This is my kind of color scheme. Really kind of natural. I have a design in mind. I usually do not make them first, unless the exception is if I'm under a lot of stress, or you know, if I just feel like, oh, this is something new that's so different, then I might make it first. But generally, I'm going to have a design in mind. I've got a curriculum together that Nicole and I put together for design school of what we want to make sure we're covering throughout the year. So we're setting you up for success when you're in the class. So you're learning the elements, they build on each other, the styles build on each other. And once I do that, then I can put the supplies together and kind of have a rough idea. It's just because I've had lots and lots of practice doing it. So I have this much fern left. And because this is my favorite, most delicate greenery, you'll see me do this a lot, guys. I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to want some more to the foreground. I'm going to use some less delicate greenery now to fill in. But can you already see, if you are on a budget and you need to make some pieces that are on a budget for your craft show, for a gift, for your church, even for your own home, I could literally probably get with this fern and let this be so organic and beautiful. Okay, we're going to step it up. I'm going to add color. We're going to add more texture. We're even going to add pampas. But this is very pretty how it is. So there's a stopping point already. Fishtail fern is one of my favorite fillers because it can go any season. This is the lighter green. It is the lighter green. So I'm going to take and push these up. Now I'm going to still cut this very long because I need to get into the foam and tuck these in all around. So I'm going to cut these as long as they'll go. You'll notice I've already pushed it up to kind of keep the cluster at the top. And we're going to use these to kind of extenuate the lines a little bit because I like how they hang and lay and they have all that great texture. So we're going to take and pop this under our pumpkin here, and we're going to let this kind of come out in the middle of the piece and let it come out and kind of spray over. That's my long one. My next one's going to go in shorter, so I'm going to cut that shorter, and we're going to put it in a little bit further back. So we're using piggyback placement that we would do in a wreath. We're using it here in the centerpiece where I'm putting two in together. I'm just doing it 2 separate steps, but there's a long one and a short one. Okay, we've got one on this end. We're going to do the same thing on the other end. So piggyback placement, long and a short right here. And if we want to do it all in one step, we can just trim them at the same time and take and swirl it in the glue. And then I'm going to put that in right in the middle. Okay, I've got a fern here, but I'm just going to let the fern be on top. You want to hear it crunch in. I want to hear both those pieces crunch in. So I've just extended the lines a little bit. I've made it longer with that one piece. And I'm going to try not to cook like I cooked the tip of my fern. All right, now we're going to use the same placement right here in the center. And this time I need it to be a little bit shorter, so I'm going to trim it a little shorter, but one's longer, one's shorter. So it gives me, the reason I do that so it looks really nice and realistic and it doesn't look like you just shoved it in. Okay, anybody can shove it in. It takes time to work on your placement and your direction and your layering to get this look we're going to work on here. So I let that vine go on top. That is so pretty already. I love this. Okay, let's go to the back. We're going to put the last piece in the back. And I'm going to make it a little bit shorter as well. And we're going to put this kind of right underneath where we have the fern in there. So you notice we're working in the 4 quadrants on this arrangement. We've got the front and the back, which are working opposite directions to each other. This one's going this way. This one's going this way. And then we have the sides, which are both using triangle placement. We got both going on. Okay, see how pretty? It's looking good already. All right, our next step is we're going to add in our eucalyptus, and this is like a nice bushy eucalyptus, same color tones. We're just going to put a little bit on each side to fill in a little, okay? Let's have this piece go right here. I'm going to use a big one and a small one, same technique. a little cluster, a short cluster. I'm going to cut them to the same size. Well, these are such different pumpkins, but they're so like understated. They don't like scream, I'm a different color. You know, they're just so neat. Okay, so I've got that little cluster of 2. Let's put another cluster of 2 on this side. I'll just turn it a little bit. And this time it'll need to be a little bit lower. It's not exactly the same place, but it's kind of similar. Okay, a long and a short. Let's see who's the longest and the shortest. I'm going to kind of mix these. It's a pretty, it's kind of an understated color palette. But, you know, there are people who are going to like that. All right, once again, I could just fill in with these last 2 pieces any holes and I could be done. If I wanted to keep it super neutral, it would be gorgeous. I'm getting ready to introduce color, and I'm going to hold this off to the side too. We're going to use these to fill up. So far I've saved some of the fern, I've saved some of the eucalyptus. I did use all of the fishtail in there. So we're going to come in now with our cool, and I don't even know what this is called. I forgot the name of it, but this is kind of a pretty coral color. It just screams when you put it in here, okay? It's just such a pretty combo. All right, here is that all broken down. We're going to start to use it in clusters. So you'll notice we've used everything in clusters in here. And I prefer to do it that way. So I'm going to go with a high-low combination, trim them down. I need the stems to be fairly long. And we're going to start to put these in, okay? So I'm going to push these in right here. I'm going to kind of keep them clustered. I want to make sure I hear it go into the foam. That's my first section. Now, if I use these in 2s, and I'm only going to use 1 bush, I got to think about how many sections that will give me. And that will give me 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So 6 clusters. So if I divide that equally, I'll have 3 per side, which is perfect because it allows me to use them in triangle placement. Okay, you're going to see you're going to build up triangles in your whole design as you're building. All right. So I'm going to take another 2 here, and we're going to try to put these on the end. I'm just going to trim them, and I'm going to put 1 and then the other because that way I won't burn myself. I want these kind of tight into the base. I don't want these shooting out. Just like little clusters. I love that. And let's go right beside it. All right, try to minimize those glue strings, guys, if you can. I hate to come back and do them. All right, 1, 2. We're going to go to the back with number 3. So visually from the top, I should see that triangle rocking. How's everybody doing? You guys are just coming in. Thanks for being here. I'm going to rotate this around. This one's going to kind of go back in the back here. I'm going to put the shorter one in first. Push it in. And I'm going to cut this one a little short. I'm going to use these to kind of fill in here. And get that looking good. Looking fine. How pretty. Okay, those 3 are in. You can see that triangle it's created, and it's great. Now let's go on the other side. Same thing. The only thing we have a little bit different is we have the pumpkins in a little bit different space. So we might have to do 1, 2, 3, okay? And we'll shift them around. But we want that. We don't want it to look matchy-matchy. That's not how I'm going to teach you to design. You can do things that way, but we want them to be a little more, give the perception they have a free form, even though they don't, right? All right, our first piece went in, and now I'm going to work 1 across right here at the tip, and then 1 tucked in over there. Okay, and let's put this one in right here behind the fern. These are so pretty. Okay, hopefully you can kind of see the triangle placement on there. It's pretty obvious. It's got even distribution. It looks great. And that introduced a little bit of color. A beautiful color. All right, I'm saving my berries because they're going to be like the fun crawly part around the design. But I'm going to go ahead and put in my pampas and finish up with a little bit of greenery. Okay, the container's 1963. Y'all, and the size is on the description too, and in the supply list. Y'all, we're one of the few people who has a clickable supply list for every project we do. So whether you buy from us or not, you can still go to that supply list and see everything on there anytime you want. So I'm going to use this kind of just on the inside next to the pumpkin. I'm just going to tuck it in first just to make sure we like the lines we're going to do. So we have transition here. We have it going left and right. And this little cluster kind of comes out right. So I'm going to try to see how this would look in just right here. I haven't glued it yet. Oh gosh, that would look great right there. I love the wispiness of that. And this is a darker green pampas. This is our custom one, and I love it because each of these is wired. So I don't have to just go with the flow, like they are wired. So if I want them to work more like a feather, I can, and I love that. So I'm going to give this some movement going out to the right, and we're going to go behind the pumpkin on the other side. I'm pretty confident, so I'm going to glue this one. Got to get up and glue it in. Just going to kind of add a little bit of pizzazz, a little drama. Oh, pretty. Oh my gosh, I love this green. It's so pretty. Okay, and then the third one will come out in between the vine on the back. You know, my dream's always to have a physical shop. That's always been one of my dreams, and so I couldn't. It's not currently on my list to do, but exactly, that's something I want to do when Kaya's gone and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with myself, right? When she's all grown up. I'm gonna go in here, y'all. Pretty. Oh my gosh, I really like this. How wispy that is coming out of the twigs. All right, let me just trim this one down and we'll put it in the middle. It's really fun to add in a little bit of drama. You could do as much or as little as you want. We're gonna add a little bit more fern, kind of layering in with it. But I'm gonna leave these three long. All right, use those wires, manipulate it how you want. Add some drama. Now it's time for our berries. Oh, let me put a little more fern in. But you can see over time, the design changes a little, and you can do what you want. What do you do when you're done, but you have some areas to be covered? So in this particular design, I've got greenery left, so I'm not done yet. I've got greenery, and we've covered almost everything. So I'm going to come back in, and I want to layer a little greenery on top of my pampas. So I soften it a little bit in there. I'm going to put it in the clusters. But I would just use Spanish moss on this one, because if you have a hole, you could just chuck moss in, and you won't hardly beat any. So I've got a little bit of holes in the back here that I would just put Spanish moss in. That's my favorite thing to use. All right, I'm going to layer this one on top of the pampas just to give it a little bit of natural, and bring that in. I'm going to bring this twig in the middle, bring that up, and then I've got to put one more piece right here. Okay, oh, that's pretty. So that softened that up a little bit, kind of rebalanced it a little bit. I love the texture that's giving us. Okay, I'm going to come to the back here where I told you about that little bitty hole. It's a little higher. I'm going to put this one piece of eucalyptus there just to kind of cover up the mechanics. So we've done a really good job of getting everything kind of covered with what we've got going on. My last little step will be to add a little, oh, that looks so cute back there. And I'm going to put a little bit off this corner here. So do save a little bit of each greenery, because then you can use to fill it in. And then if you don't quite have enough, then you can just chuck a little Spanish moss in. You don't even have to do that on this one. You got it nice and full. All right, it's berry time. So we've got our coordinating pink, they're not pink, coral berries that go with the other clusters in there. So we're going to put a couple of these in, and I'm strictly going to use these to add movement and pop some color to the top of the design. So I want to cut these long as I can. So I'm going to cut them into two sections right now. So I'm going to cut this long and cut this long. Everything in here comes from our shop, even the containers. All right, I'm thinking about putting this one in here and letting it kind of crawl over that pumpkin. You see, oh my goodness, these kind of little touches are just bring that touch you need, okay? We'll put that one in, and then I'm going to put the other one going the other way. So this one come out of the front and kind of tuck in this way and then go over the top. And I'm going to layer that one a little bit in. So we got a little berry up and a little berry down, like coming in and going back around, continuing those lines of the grapevine, okay? So that's how I made the choices to put these berries there. Let me glue them in. And I think we've done it, you guys. The berries on the bomb.com. Now let me know if you have any questions. The berries pop that color, yes. So we needed those berries to kind of really finish it off. Like give it that, the cherry on top. That's what these are doing for us, literally. Make sure you hear it go into the foam and use that wire. That's why we cut those long. Kind of bring that in. But I think it turned out beautiful. I hope you guys liked it. Completely different color palette than we worked in all year, but gorgeous, beautiful, stunning.